What up? It's Baby Meridian. Hi. I keep promising consistency. I'm just going to say it now. It's not gonna happen. Sorry. But, something happened the other day. And so it's gonna be a story time where I talk about my ex-girlfriend. So, it's kind of a complicated story. I would have screenshots to read off for you, but tried to email them to myself. They're not sending, so I'm just gonna paraphrase things. If I manage to get the receipts, I will upload them to my TikTok. You can follow me at the Meridian C. Do my best to get some stuff there. Anyways, so, my ex-girlfriend was an experience. We started dating, I wanna say June, like this past June, most recently. And we stopped dating in like really early August, sometime in August. In those 2 months of dating, a lot happened. We were friends first for a couple of months. We started off as roleplay partners on Discord. We became friends from there, and from there we entered into a romantic entanglement of sorts. Now, this person, I believe, is monogamous at heart. However, she knew that I was polyamorous after all when we started dating. I already had another partner at the time who, of course, knew about her and was fine. He had another partner of his own. Like, no cheating was involved before anybody comes for me. No cheating. But, I ended up leaving him about a week or two into my relationship with her for other reasons that I'm not going to get into in this video because it's a long story. But also, a tangent, I know, but this is Persephone. She's my kitten. She's about 6 months old. She says hello. Anyways, so I left him for reasons I'm not going to get into because it's a long, complicated story. But she actively encouraged me to leave him, which, of course, some people would be like, oh, if she's monogamous, of course she was going to encourage you to leave him so that she could have you all to herself. Good line of thinking that may have played a part in it, but honestly, I do think she probably had my best interests at heart with this dude because my friends were also encouraging me, hey, he's not a good person, he's not treating you very well, you should probably take a step back. And I listened to everybody's advice because I tried to do the smart thing and take care of myself, and I left him. And then I was only with her, and I think that once I left him, she expected me to be with only her, because in a later conversation when I had said, hey, I don't know what's really going on with us, like, one of my former partners asked me out on a date to see if the spark is still there, and I'm still really good friends with this former partner, and I also wanted to see if maybe we could rekindle things, because when we dated, we were like kind of young and stupid in high school, and now we're both, full-blown adults. We graduated like 5 years ago and really grown as individuals. I wanted to see where things could maybe go, see if feelings were still there, because, we both stayed really close and had never really stopped thinking about each other in that sense pretty much the entire time. Like, for all of these years, we both still kind of held a candle for each other, so to speak. But I had asked her, hey, I left this dude. You're currently my only partner. I don't know what's going on with that. You know that I'm poly, and I know that you're mono, but this former partner of mine asked me out on a date, and I'd really like to see where it goes. And she was just kind of like really hedging around it and seemed super uncomfortable. So I'm like, you know what, we can shelf this, revisit it at a later date, because we were still new in a relationship. Very rocky in a relationship, which is what this story time is going to be all about, not the whole differences between poly, mono situation. It was everything else that happened in this relationship, but I figured I'd provide a little bit of context that, she's monogamous, deals with insecurities, and also has borderline personality disorder, which, of course, that is to say, everybody with BPD is different. I have a best friend with BPD who's absolutely nothing like my ex-girlfriend. I'm not trying to say that all BPD people are toxic or potentially abusive, but the reason I give the context that she has BPD is that she would use it to explain away a lot of her behaviors as her mental illness being the reason behind why she did a lot of what she did with me. So I felt that was kind of important context to include. So we're going to start with probably the core issue of it all, is that me and this girl, I'm obviously not going to name her, but me and this girl have two extremely different communication styles. I mean, she's the kind of communication style where she's all up in your business, blowing up your phone, kind of, I'm going to text you 24/7 because I love you to death kind of communication style, which, of course, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It just doesn't match with my communication style, in which sometimes I get non-communicative. I go virtually mute, so to speak, in which I will not respond for a few hours at a time if I'm concentrating on something else, or if I'm out with friends or family and I'm trying to devote my undivided attention to them, or if I'm even just going through a hard time or a depression slump and I just physically cannot willpower myself into responding to a text. Especially when she unloads some pretty heavy things on me, such as her traumas, things to do with her family, her father's suicide, things like that. And while I have been there for her and been supportive of her during her telling me about this, sometimes it will crop up in the middle of an absolute random conversation, and I will not know how to respond to it, and I'll shut down. I will shut down and go mute, pretty much. I had forewarned her, hey, there's gonna be some times where I don't know what to say to this kind of heavy stuff. If I don't respond, it doesn't mean I'm ignoring you, but the biggest problem with our two different communication styles is that ultimately, while it's okay to have two different communication styles, it's not okay to blow up at me for not responding, especially if, I go a grand total of 2 hours without texting you back. That's where it starts to get to be a little bit much, and that has literally happened. Actually, some of the screenshots that I was gonna read out loud had to do with that specific kind of situation. Basically, this one time, I'm just refreshing my email. If you see me staring off camera, I'm staring at my laptop, trying to refresh my email, seeing if anything's gone through. Unfortunately, no. So, we're still kind of without screenshots. That's fine. But one of these particular fights, one of the, I believe, original fights, was when I had been busy doing something. My phone died. I took 2 hours to text her back, and it wasn't even during a particularly heavy or pressing conversation where she really needed support. It was just during an everyday kind of normal small talk situation in which, she said something benign and regular, and I was just, doing my thing, trying to clean my apartment, keep it in order. My phone died. I didn't put it on charge because I was busy. And then I went across state for a little bit, hence the phone dying. I came back. I didn't plug it in right away. I just started cleaning my apartment, doing my own thing. I had been responding to her even while across state trying to visit my youngest brother in college. I was still, trying to dedicate time to respond to her every now and then. But, my phone died. I come home. I start cleaning. I take a couple of hours to get back to her. Only a couple of hours. And she freaks out. I mean, absolutely freaks out. Like, accuses me of not caring about her. And a bunch of other stuff like that. I mean, she turns it into what is essentially a text version of a fists out, knockout, drag out fight kind of a situation, kind of an argument. And that is incredibly detrimental to my well-being due to trauma that I have with my family. So, that essentially causes me to shut down and retreat further, which would set her off more, even though I explained, dude, it's a trauma response. I'm gonna shut down. I explained to her multiple times that I was going to shut down during times of confrontation like that. I'm trying to get better at handling confrontation well without essentially going into a depression coma. But there was confrontation in which healthy disagreement, and then there's confrontation, she would say incredibly hurtful things to me when she was angry, and then the next day apologize and say she had a BPD moment, essentially, and then promised it would never happen again, and then a few days later, it happened again, and it was a cycle. It was a vicious cycle, and ultimately that kind of a cycle during a particularly nasty fight, it led me to, take a step back and kind of reconsider our relationship. So I, took some time to collect my thoughts. I didn't want to just, dump her during the middle of a fight when we're both angry and heated and whatnot, because that, A, would make it worse, and B, I really wanted to make sure that it was what I wanted and do it in a calm state of mind. so that she couldn't say, hey, you're only doing this because I'm yelling at you. And she has blatantly said, you're using this as an excuse to pull away from me. You're using this as an excuse to run away and be avoidant. And shit like that hurts. It feels super invalidating to hear somebody who supposedly loves you and says that they love you and care about you and wants what's best for you, to hear them say, you're using my hurtful words as an excuse to pull away. It doesn't feel great. Like, what am I supposed to do? Use your arguing and hurtful words as a reason to get closer? Kind of confused about that. I mean, for all I know, that could have been exactly what she thought. Hoping, hey, if I do all of this, it'll show her how much I care. Spoiler alert, I actually use they, them pronouns, but that's an aside. She would typically not use them towards me, even though she knew, but besides the point. She would be like, hey, if I show Meridian how much I care, doing X, Y, and Z, we'll be closer to each other. And what actually happened was all the stuff that she thought was making us closer was actually really, really toxic and manipulative. And in one of the screenshots, it actually is basically her admitting that she was doing it to get a reaction out of me. Because she would frequently say stuff like, I'm done, no more chances, I'm leaving home, I'm just gonna, like, walk off and go, who knows, and then turn around and 10 or less messages later say, I don't know why you can't see that I would never leave and I'm always here for you. And I'm like, dude, you just got done saying that I've lost all my chances and that you're just leaving home to do God only knows what. Why would you tell me that you're gonna leave if you never actually planned on leaving? And she said, I don't know, I was just hoping to, like, get a reaction out of you. I feel like I have to do stuff like this to get a reaction out of you, even though I've explained, like, probably about a dozen times or so now that I take a very long time to open up fully to people. That was part of her problem, is that she would lay out all of these traumas and horrific things in her past to me, and I wasn't readily doing the same. And I had explained to her, look, it takes a lot of time for me to open up to people. I don't trust that easily. It's gonna take some time. I'm talking like all of my friends have learned this stuff from me, if they even know about it at all, after, like, years of knowing me, kind of a thing. I don't fully open up to people until I've known them or been with them or been friends with them or whatever for like a year or more, because I keep this stuff very close to my heart, and she knew that, and she would frequently use it against me, saying that I don't trust her, it hurts her that I don't trust her, and other things like that. And it was just really hard for me to listen to, because it felt like she just was forgetting everything that I would tell her about why I, go silent, why I don't talk about these things kind of readily with people that I'd only known for a couple of months. She assumed it meant that I was bottling it up and just kind of like avoiding it altogether, when that wasn't the case. I do have people that I trust enough to talk about it with, like my parents. I talk about it with online therapists and online counselors, and I've told her that multiple times, and in the next fight, she always would bring up the same thing all over again, no matter how many times it would explain it to her. I would essentially end up just having to repeat the same thing over, over, and over again, because it would just ultimately never get through to her. Because, I don't know, she just didn't listen, or didn't care enough to remember, or just couldn't remember for other undisclosed reasons, like memory issues. If it had been memory issues, she could have told me, hey, okay, you're saying that you've told me this before. I have memory issues. I don't remember. Can we go over this again? And I'll do my best to remember. She never said that. She would actually spin it back on me when I tried telling her, we've been over this multiple times. That would turn into another fight. And ultimately, there was just a lot of backlash over pretty much anything that I did. So we broke up, and she told me that, she understands what she did was hurtful. I could take all the time I needed to myself. I could take as much space as I wanted. So I did. I took some space. I took a little bit of time to myself. I took a few days to just kind of gather my thoughts, and then we tried to go back to being friends, but ultimately the type of fights that led to us breaking up were still happening, and in fact they were escalating. One of the fights actually ended up being about my distance again, and I told her, you told me I could have space, now I'm the bad guy for doing literally exactly what you said was completely okay with you, because she told me to take as much space and time as you need, so I did, which only ended up being a few days after a breakup of that kind of magnitude. I still tried to go back to being friends quicker than I probably should have, but I thought, I was doing that for her benefit, when really I probably should have been thinking about my own benefit for something like that because of all the fights. But for her sake, I tried to go back to being friends like none of it had ever happened. And she pretty much told me, I've tried to give you as much space as you needed. And I'm like, but did you though? Because when I took the space that you told me was completely okay to take, and to take as much of it as I needed, you blew up on me again for taking the space that you told me I could. And it turned into another fight from there. I ended up blocking her on what I thought was everything. I blocked her on Discord, I blocked her on Facebook, I blocked her number. I forgot to completely block her number because she could still text me, she just couldn't call me. What I thought was blocking was apparently just sending her phone number to the spam list so that it would just go straight to voicemail when she tried to call, but she could still text me. So I blocked her that night because I was, out in a kayak, and she calls me sounding drunk, trying to accuse me of not caring. My mother was sitting right next to me listening to everything that was being said. So I blatantly told her, I'm gonna hang up now. I'm out in a kayak in the middle of a lake, and I'm very new to kayaking. I don't want to go overboard, especially with my phone, because it wasn't in the waterproof case at the time, because I was on the phone. So I hang up the phone, and she turns that into yet another fight. And so I end up blocking her on Facebook and on Discord. I thought I had blocked her number, but it turns out I didn't. I go to bed. The next morning, I wake up to like 5 text messages begging me not to do this because I had never blocked her before. I had never decided that I was completely done and cutting her out of my life. So she probably had a wake-up moment like, oh shit, I fucked up. It's serious this time. They're done with me for good. Because at the time I was. I wish I could say that I didn't let her back in, but I did. But I woke up to 5 text messages begging me, please don't do this, I'm sorry. I had a message from her Reddit account that I forgot to block her on because that's where we met, saying, please don't do this, I'm sorry. And because I had blocked her on Facebook, she turned around and made a brand new Facebook account to message me the same thing as she had messaged on Reddit and in 5 text messages saying, I'm sorry, please don't do this. Among, other begging type things. I don't remember. This was back in August. Oh, that's a look. But she decided, oh, this person blocked me. The correct response is to track them down on a new Facebook, message them on Reddit, and text them 5 very long text messages boiling down to, I'm sorry, please don't do this. And at the time that I read those messages, I'm like, this is kind of creepy. And it almost felt unhinged in a way that she not only decided to text me an apology and begging me to stay. I mean, literally begging me to stay. She also decided to do the same thing on Reddit and create a new Facebook account. If she had just stuck to one platform, like the phone number, just a quick, hey, I'm sorry, please unblock me, I want to talk about this rationally, like, that probably would have been not too concerning. That probably something a lot of people would do if they really wanted to try and work it out with somebody to keep somebody they care about in their life. But the fact that she would do it over 3 different platforms, including a brand new Facebook account made pretty much exclusively just to say that, because when I unblocked her, she never used it again after that, and it had no profile picture, definitely didn't sit right with me. But later that afternoon, I kind of dwelled on it, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna unblock her. And for a while we were fine-ish, but then, it turned into a few more fights, and I tried to stay friends, and then it turned into what happened the other day, which was another knockout dragout fight. So I decided, cutting her off for good this time, and I blocked her again, so fingers crossed it stays that way that time. So, I will see you guys in the next video. Not sure when that's gonna be. Try and put some screenshots on my TikTok, and, see you later.